From fine dining pastry chef to the founder of a beloved boutique cookie brand, today's guest on The Perfect Rise proves that resilience, creativity, and community can be the perfect recipe for success. After a career ending injury forced her to rethink her path, Tracy Mattson turned 6 weeks on the couch into the launch pad for Cookie Take a Bite. A business built on elevated flavors, thoughtful presentation, and a deep commitment to local partnerships. In this episode, we dig into Tracy's journey from farmers markets to thriving brick-and-mortar bakery, the hard choices behind staying true to your values, and her advice for pastry chefs ready to leap into entrepreneurship. Let's jump in. Hello and welcome back to The Perfect Rise. I am joined today by Tracy Mattson. Tracy, thank you so much for coming to join me today on the podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I already enjoyed it, our lifetime chat before this, so I'm super excited. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm super excited for this conversation because for 10 years I ran a custom cookie boutique and I was like a cookie person. So I was super excited.
But you didn't tell me that, so we're gonna have to dig into that.
Cookies are my life. So starting out is, can you take us back to the moment when Cookie Take a Bite first sparked? What was missing in the market and how did you decide to create a boutique cookie brand?
Thank you. I was working in fine dining and I really love being a pastry chef, but that business is really hard on your body and it's hard if you happen to have a little munchkin. And, so I ended up getting hurt. These TV shows make it look glamorous. Like, oh my God, no, especially in pastry. You burn yourself, you cut yourself, your feet stop. Maybe you start feeling a lot in your feet. So anyway, I broke down and I had to get surgery on my foot. So while I was recuperating, I was trying to think about what I could do. I love my business. I love this industry. Pastry folks are cool and we help each other and we support each other. Or like the stepdaughter of the kitchen world.
Yeah.
So we kind of hold our own and stay together. So I really liked it, but I didn't see me being able to go back into working nights and weekends. And our son was 2 at the time, so it was really hard. And I did kind of want to remember what he looked like. So sitting on the couch with my foot elevated for 6 weeks gives you lots of time to think. So, and I had some cool friends that were like, you just need to do something. Like you can't, you can't feel sorry for yourself, like your career's over. Like, no, you make a new one. And I'm like, okay, that's great advice. So I did like exactly what your question. I started looking like, what can I do? What's not out there? There seems to be, there's something for everybody, but I really didn't see, someone doing something with an elevated flavor for the masses, right? You don't need to go to a 2-star Michelin restaurant to have something super amazing for dessert. Like maybe I can do that and started looking like what category could I do? And originally actually I wanted an ice cream sundae truck. A little truck and build your own sundae. So maybe that's somebody else can take that idea. I give it to you freely. So you make your own like ice cream sandwich. So you pick your cookie, pick your ice cream, and then like, woo, good to go and have a little truck. But there's the reality of regulation and
Mhm.
cost. And there's a whole nother regulation with dairy and there's the cost. So I was like, well, maybe we'll just do cookies. So that's kind of where it started. And it was a really good one to have a low cost to capital entry. So I could rent a kitchen, I could do a farmer's market. And really, I think that model is a great incubator to start a food business because, I wasn't loaded. I didn't want to rack up my credit card bills. I wanted to try
Mhm.
to grow it organically, which also means you stay super small. So there's trade-offs there, right? But I think I was okay with that. So, and that's a whole sidebar. We talk about women in business and we tend to be cautious and not like, throw caution to the wind, so
Yes.
I was like fitting the model perfectly. But I'm okay with it. So yeah, started like whatever the speed below the tortoise is, that was me. So, and that's really what I did and just started out small and really it was kind of outside of my personality as like ask everyone any question, ask, get feedback, try to talk to everybody. You learn and you built that, cookie empire by one question at a time. and just really being open to suggestions and open to, like what other people's experience and kind of building your own from there. Not that you take it or you ignore it, but it just goes into that kind of that mosh pit of ideas.
Nice. Okay. So this is just so everyone knows, full disclosure, very excited about this. So this is kind of like an interview for me 10 years ago. Like,
Gosh, okay, we're comparing notes, man. And maybe we can switch. You can be the cookie business again, I'll be the podcaster.
oh no, I think I'll stick with
Oh,
podcast.
damn.
I,
I
I think
it was
I'll
a
say,
shot. Darn.
we tried,
I
but
tried.
I've done my time in the kitchen. I've done it,
Yeah.
and it was fun. I loved it so much. And one of the things that I students have asked me over the years, or people that I've coached over the years have asked me things around packaging and like, how do you make this stand out against other people? How do you make whatever it is you're offering in what feels like a saturated market, even though it's not? How do you make these things look a particular way, right? So my question for you is, what are the earliest business decisions you made around product size, flavor profile, and packaging? And how has that influenced your brand today?
For sure. And packaging is the hardest part. And I don't think I brought a box. But anyway, packaging was like probably like hand in hand of, what we were going to do. And maybe one drove the other. But the biggest thing was size. Like, cookies were like the size of your head. And for
Mhm.
me, I eat the whole thing and then I don't feel good. I want pastry and dessert is supposed to like this end of a great symphony. It's like it's the perfect ending note. So you wanted to be satiated, wanted to feel like happy. And then when you're eating something that makes you like, oh, why did I do that? That's really not what I wanted to go for. So I really looked at like an elevated, thoughtful approach to size. So our cookies are only like 2.5 inches in diameter. And I really like this idea of mix and match. So you could try a little bit. Again, we get as the owners, we get to put our own personality and stamp on it. I don't like making choices. I want to try every single bite of one thing. So
Mhm.
with cookies, I wanted you to have a little bit of everything. And really, our model is not one flavor, one type of base and different
Okay.
variations. Everybody has their own personality, look, uh, and taste. So really, the whole mix and match was really important because they're not the same cookie. They're like
Mhm.
completely different flavors or texture, or if it's a chocolate cookie, it has a little malt and salt. If it's a spice cookie, it's going to have zest in it. So I really wanted to share all those kind of elements, and really kind of really stay true to our theme of elevated kind of experience. So, but packaging, I swear, packaging is the hardest, and frankly, the most expensive. And we
Mhm.
won't even go into tariffs and supply chain issues because we've gotten hit with both. We're small, we're hyper local. We use local organic butter. We work with a farmer who brings us our eggs, which are both more expensive, but that's part of our ethos. We want to differentiate ourselves and be a really good community partner, and that is by supporting your local food shed. Packaging, there's no one here that makes packaging. And we're finding that U.S. manufacturers, which we'd rather do because we're a slow food snail award. It's really important to me. They haven't gotten where they can do small lots. It's not cost effective. So you look offshore for countries that have really perfected about being able to do small runs at a
Mhm.
price point that we can afford. So yeah, so that's always something that you're having to look at for cost and kind of like shift things and look stuff. But yeah, packaging. I really wanted our packaging to be elegant, like our cookies, stand out. So we have a little red gable box, and we have a program that you bring it back, you get an extra cookie. So people hold on to them; they become precious. When we're at events, I feel like there's a wee bit of guerrilla marketing because you see our red boxes all through the
Mhm.
crowd. You're like, yes, I love that. I love that. It gives me joy for sure.
That was so loaded. Like there were so many jewels just from that one
I
answer
just
by
forgot the question, so that was okay. So good. I hope I got most of them in there.
you totally answered the question, but I love the idea of like even people now, particularly because of tariffs, right? That our bakery owners understand that like you may have difficulty finding the products that you were using before, and you're not by yourself. And I
Yeah.
feel like so many people feel like they're just in these silos of aloneness. And I'm like, no, everybody is having this problem.
I
Like,
just went
just
into a
relate.
colleague's chocolate shop, and she's like, and you get to this point where you're like, oh God, whatever, we're just gonna deal with. Let's prioritize our crisis. And the chocolate shops, let's talk about the price of chocolate. That's the other great thing that's happening right now. And we just got tariffs hit on top of our chocolate too. So
Mhm.
not only you have a supply issue, you have a tariff issue. So you're like, great, let's think about if we're gonna have chocolate. But they had a different colored box on their counter because they're like, we can't get it. And you just like, and I'm okay with it. It's pretty, it's cool. So you just gotta you gotta roll with it and really triage like what's really at the end of the day, what do you gotta focus your resources and your stress level on, because it could be everything for sure. But you're absolutely right. We're not alone, but and you just you gotta be flexible and like, okay, today we have a box with a sticker on it. Yay! So
And it's okay. Yeah. It
and
doesn't,
our customers understand because we're part of a community, so they're like they get it, and they when they hear that they're like, cool, I want to support you even more.
yes. Yes. And I think that is super helpful. We did an interview towards the beginning, several months ago, where a gentleman had been in business 50 years.
Oh my gosh,
And this was like right before the tariffs were about to hit. And I remember asking him, like, what were his thoughts? And he said, I've been in business 50 years. It's not the first time we've had to go through something like this. He was like, you just have to figure out what's going to work to get you through until things turn around. And he was like,
exactly,
after 50 years in business, he was like, we don't even sweat this kind of stuff even more, because he's like, this isn't the first administration where we've had an issue. So you just figure out, okay, what are the things that we can do right now in this moment that's not going to affect the quality of the product? And if we're thinking about the cookie versus the cookie packaging, the people are coming for the cookies and not.
exactly. That's really great advice, and I think in our craft, you have to be flexible. I mean, we opened I started with a farmer's market and doing wholesale, and we had our own production kitchen. Everyone's like, "Oh, you should do a retail counter." I'm like, "No, I can't do that yet. I want to have retail, and we're not in a super high traffic area. I want to do retail when I have name recognition and that that business will carry itself. You
Yes.
go by some of these stores and like there's no one in there, and I'm thinking math, like you're paying those two people there and there's no one there. That's really heartbreaking, and that could really break you, literally break you financially and your business. So, yes, but we hit, the COVID supply and now this, and you're like, you're like, all right, what's today? And you have to roll with it for sure. And one of the best advices, because again, going back to like really talk to people, ask people, get their experience, is it was another business owner, and he's like, you need to be good with doing less of what you love in regard to like baking and the product, and you better be able to run a business, because if you
Mm-hmm.
can't do that, you won't be a business, because if you don't know your numbers, if you don't know how to, and I'm suck at that, just so just full disclosure, but I know I need to do it, like, and then hire someone that can help you with that. But if you can't run your business, then you don't have a business. So you really got to be practical about having a handle on that, or at least getting help on it, so you know that you're not just you've got an open faucet and then just running yourself into the ground.
Yes. Because then is it passion or is it profit? Which one are you here for? And you can be here for both. But
Yeah,
the profit is always going to outweigh the passion, particularly when we're facing these types of like bottlenecks in the business that you have zero control over.
yeah, because what you're going to pay for packaging that has gone up 145%. You can't, so you got to pay attention. And that's sometimes is not as exciting for sure. So that's
Sure.
why having a talk with you makes me remind me of like what I really like to do and why it's still important. Yeah.
Yes. And I think the important thing are the cookies. Like that is the thing that makes your business unique, which leads, it's a great segue into my next question. So my next question for you was, you described your cookies as left of center. So can you walk us through your creative process on how you test or validate new flavor ideas?
Yeah, and it goes back to what we wanted to have an elevated experience, like cookies for every occasion, like a really great cookie for every occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at like I like have two or three kind of flavor profiles. So like one of we have a local harvest fair, so one of the ones that won best to show was a tequila lime twist. So we took a cookie that we did the base with lime, so but we used the lime zest, the lime juice, and like, where do we take that? That could just be a lime cookie. It's great. One of our
Mm-hmm.
signature cookie is a lemon that's just like that, but it's like fresh lemons, fresh juice, like really good. But this one, like, how can we kind of like zip it up? And when I was a pastry chef, we used to do these amuse bouches with cool flavor combinations as a palate cleanser. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, tequila, lime, like, how can we make a margarita? So we've got this amazing flavor of the lime cookie, that tangy, soft. So the icing, then we look at, adding tequila and lime juice and really finding that sweet, literally sweet spot, where
Mm-hmm.
it's still tangy and you're not like, oh, that's way too tequila, you're way too lime. So that's the icing, and then we do homemade vanilla salt. So we take gray salt and then we put tons of our beans that we've scraped out, the pods, excuse me, where we scrape the
Mm-hmm.
beans out, and then just let that, infuse with the flavor and the smell. And so a little vanilla salt on top, and then like cool. So it's a really fun cookie, and yeah, I like it. It is tasty, and people are like, "Wow, you get salty, you get sweet, you get tangy, and you get that all in a little cookie." I'm really proud of that one because that was us. That was our flavor profile. That was taking something I had done in another context of dessert, but putting
Mm-hmm.
it into a cookie. And we try to do that sometimes. Like we've done like a maple. Like or a bourbon maple pecan cookie. So again, these flavor profiles are at other dessert elements that put it in a cookie. So, yeah, so that's kind of where I look at it. Or, okay, how do we add another element? Like our snickerdoodle has orange zest in it because I want it to, I like the whole salt citrus, like it'll pop on you. So, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really helpful. Yeah,
I love that. Like,
yeah.
I'm fully on board with the elevated cookie now, and now I feel like I need to come to your bakery and get
Oh,
some.
yeah. We're gonna have to compare notes. And then the funny thing is, like, one of like talking about like again, ask people. We had a woman, Diane Peterson, who was a reporter for our local paper, and she just, I used her. She came in and did a story on us when we first started, and I would talk to her at the farmers market. And one of the another again, a really like piece of advice that made you go, what? Oh, okay, let me think about that. Was don't do a chocolate chip cookie when because you're doing all these different flavors. Do not do that on your first run because everyone has a memory or a flavor
Oh,
profile of what that should taste spot like, and they were going to
yes.
judge you on that. So don't. And so like, oh, I seriously would never thought about that,
Me
right?
either. Yep.
So that's why we're known for our lemon moon cookies because that's what we put our effort bit on and that's what we got in everyone's hand and got everyone to taste is because this is something you will not taste from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then that became what we were known for. And like again, these elevated, really great flavor, not too sweet, doesn't taste like pledge lemon oil because it's actually got lemons in it. Yeah, so it's like so that's kind of how we grew. Now we do a chocolate chip cookie and it probably sells more than any of them. But at least that's we didn't get hit at the gate
Yes.
by that evaluation.
That
So
is so
there's
smart.
lots of people out there to talk to, like talk to them.
Yes. I've never heard of that.
It
And
was the weirdest thing, and I was just like, really?
that
And
makes
then you'd
sense.
you'd you'd be at the farmer's market, and don't you have a chocolate chip? No, but we have this triple chocolate. Try this one. So you would get like this, but you got them to try your cookie.
Did
Got to try our
I
cookie. Yeah.
That's gold. I totally think that that is genius. Um, so as you were talking to other people like at the farmers market or people who are coming into your stores, um, how do you take customer feedback and use it as market research? And then how do you decide whether or not you're going to actually change something or not?
It is so good because you can react to everything, and then you would just be like, my hair would be out to like in my picture, out
Mm-hmm.
to here. Um, I take it, and it's like one of those, I feel like an attorney. I take it under advisement.
Okay.
So I hear you. Okay, cool. I hear you. And if I start to get a couple of them, like, okay, we probably should think about this. And I have. responded, and I have not. Like we had one where we have a cookie of the month club, which I think is one of the best things that we've done to help with cash flow because it's charged on a monthly basis, and we have a steady business even when we're dead. Anyway, we did our tequila lime cookie in that one, and we got pushback on the alcohol on it. We disclaim it because we don't blow it, we don't cook it off. And I'm like, I'm gonna think about this one. Yeah, I'm gonna think about this one because we've had this cookie for years and no one's ever said anything. But maybe for the cookie of the month club, maybe we do a notice in the month before, ask people if they want it. I'm like, okay, that one's fair. I'll take it. I'm not gonna change it, but maybe we change where it goes. So things
Mm.
like that. Like I mean, like okay, that's a valid one. So and then you get people that you're like, no, sorry. Like why don't you do a big cookie? Well, then go somewhere else because that's my business and it's my choice. So
Right.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
but I
that.
think you have to hear it and then kind of it fits in that boop, 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 like where you're taking everyone's advice and then see if it plugs in, if it hits something. And then, just wait it out, see if it's a real issue or someone who is just being cranky and having a bad day.
Right. Or some people just won't like it, regardless to whatever it is you do.
Well, that hurts my heart, but it's yes, that's true. And I gotta tell you, even after 12 years, I still take it personally. Even though we're not supposed to. But I do. I feel like, what the hell's your problem? Are you allowed to say that on this? But anyway,
Yes, you are.
uh yeah, so you're like, okay, well, be nice about it. Like, come on. You don't have to like, you know, don't have to be rude. There's enough light, like, and what I like, it's fun to tell my staff is like, we are in the business of spreading joy,
Mhm.
and not every place can do that. Like, I'll talk to my colleagues who have restaurants and like people that come in and they're mean. I'm like, that really hasn't happened here because people are already coming in and then our job is to make them excited. So when I'm training my front counter people, I'm like, this is really an important job because you're not just an order taker. Like you can go
Mhm.
anywhere and do that, but this is about sharing our passion, sharing what we
Mhm.
do in like 40 in 20 seconds, in the intro, especially if they
Yes.
haven't come in. And you want them leaving excited that they made this purchase. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to try these cookies. And I think we've only had two instances like where people came in and they weren't one thought she ordered from us and she didn't and it was the end of the day and there could have gone two ways. We could have been like, sorry, we're closed and you
Mhm.
didn't order from us, whatever. But you got a sense like, you know what, I think give me 10 minutes, we can turn our ovens back on. What did you want? We can bake it right now. You got a sense that this woman, she was having a bad day and
Mhm.
she was frustrated and it was kind of coming out at me, but I was like, let me see if I can help. And so she stayed. We baked her cookies, and she's like, I just realized I called somebody else. And I'm like, it's cool. I'm glad you came here and we got your cookies. And we found out she had just been to the doctor and had gotten some bad news. And she
Yep.
was just like, she was flailing, and we could take that moment and make her day a little better. And
Yes.
not, and not there's not a lot of people that's their job, and I love that part of my job. And that's why I keep trying to tell my people is like, you don't just take their money and give them a cookie. You are sharing an experience. You're sharing a moment with somebody. And like, that's what we're in the business of selling. Not just a cookie, but an experience.
Absolutely. I love it, and I hope everybody took a note of that because I'm the chase joy girl. So
I like that.
it's difficult for me to be like, "Oh, we're having a bad day." Okay. So, let's find the joy in the moment.
Because you could have been easy, just been like, sorry, we're closed. I can't help you. But sometimes, like I think, in a business of pleasing people, right? Whether for food or whatever. And you just get a sense of like, wow, I can do this. So,
Yes, and you can. Okay, so keeping with this and talking about customers and how you've built much community, what does your grand opening or early customer engagement look like?
like when
Mhm.
we opened our counter. It was again a long, long drawn out process. We had fabulous architects and fabulous builders that again was just we couldn't ask for a better experience. So then and a landlord, our landlord's been fabulous in helping me grow. I couldn't have done it without her. So it does take a village. So we had this great grand opening And in the backdrop was the fires of like 2000, whatever. We've had fires here. So yeah, it was smoky. We couldn't be outside. But we had people come and we had food. But it goes back to your 50-year person who's in business 50 years, who I totally want to meet that person because that's inspiring. We're like, okay, just come inside. And, then we were closed
Yeah.
for like a week because of the fires. That probably wasn't a great answer to motivate anyone, but it learns about resilience and you still like, we're here, we're still here. So, and people came and, they came and, just don't look to the north where it's kind of orangey glow. And, my parents came in from Texas and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so stressful. So, but yeah, that was, I don't know what that lesson is. That's a lesson of like, just roll with it. And, we'd already
Yes.
rented everything. We had food. You're like, we're going with this.
Yes.
So,
When you went from farmers market to brick and mortar, like how long did that take you?
God, I don't remember. I think like my dog is like 5 years old for like 8 years. I have no sense of time anymore. Several years. I rented a kitchen and did a commercial kitchen, and then a landlord again talked to people, talked to people, talked to people.
Mm-hmm.
My landlord rode horses, and that's my side hustle, my like my true like my gives me joy. And she had a space here, and where I'm at now, and I looked, I'm like, "Ugh, it's so small. It was like 500 square feet. It was tiny.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked at a place that was like 3,000 square feet. And then again, it goes back to knowing your business and knowing numbers. And I was like, oh, wait, that 500 square feet looks great. That looks really good. It was in the back. It had no foot traffic. We just used it as a production kitchen because I'm like, let's just start this small. Start this small. And then the space in front of us came open 3 times. And on the third time, we're like, okay, I'm comfortable. Like, and you become the nice part of starting in a commercial kitchen, which you're paying by the hour, you learn to be really efficient. So I use the same principles when we had our small production kitchen, which, we'd bake, clear everything, pack, and then it would out would it go. So you learn to be very efficient. So when we expanded, then we could just, we could really grow on that because wow, now we could bake and pack. What a novel idea. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a couple years, definitely a couple years in in a commercial kitchen. Again, I think on my path, I just had really great people. It was a city-owned community center that had a kitchen. And so we rented, and like I think we were one of the first ones. So it was cool because now it's a fabulous incubator. So many other people now they kind of come in after, and they were so great to work with. And they would work with me. They would help me if I needed like to come in at a different time. You just I think that's just being kind and trying to be respectful, and it helps a lot. And then knowing like how much you can push into like an hour. So
Yeah.
you can push the boundaries. But yeah, so we went from commercial kitchen, and then so you would pack, go to an event, leave all of it in your car or come back to a production kitchen that was very tiny, but was mine. It was really nice. I remember coming in and I was scrubbing the floor with a toothbrush. You could only do that because it was 500 square feet, but it was mine and I was really proud of it. And, I
Yes.
turned this little thing into like our little jewel box and then eventually grew.
I
So,
I love that. I'm reading a book right now um that is called Work is Fun. And his like this is by the guy who owns King of Pops, where he started a popsicle stand.
oh, no
And
way.
the two stories sound so similar, where he's talking about like how quickly they had to package all their popsicles and then they'd
Shoot.
immediately go out and sell them. And like he talks about the back and forth with the incubator kitchen and then how they got their own kitchen and now they're just kind of they're very large. They started in Atlanta.
Oh,
They're huge now.
that's
And as
cool.
you were talking, I was like, no, that sounds like
I'll
this
have to
story
check out his
that I'm
book.
reading right now. It's so good. And he even talks to um founders in the understanding that even though you start lean, you start small. As you're growing, do not lose the passion you had when you started lean. Like, even though you didn't have a whole lot of stuff, it was still fun. Like, it was the passion that was driving you. And so he talks about how do you implement that passion throughout, even as you grow larger. Um, and it's great for founders to listen to, but then also here's what you tell your staff. Like, so
Exactly.
yeah, so
You
he
got
talks
it
about
has to
big
translate.
vision. Yeah, like how do you get everybody to buy into this like big imaginative fun dream?
That's
It's got
cool.
great stories in it. Totally, totally recommend it. That's not normal on the podcast, but that stood out. So clearly,
I'm gonna definitely check out that. Like we did, like when you're growing, like I got a business coach because it seemed like that's what I should do at that time. And it helped in some regard, but we were, God, it was post-COVID supply chain issues, whatever problem we had at the time. And she's like, well, you need to change, like your butter's your most expensive thing. You should change that. I'm like, well, then I should close because um, what distinguishes me is our commitment to quality agreements and to our community. If I'm just gonna go and get like no name, name brand, like what? Well, then you could just go to Safeway, and like there's no difference, and that's just a death by a thousand cuts. And really didn't understand. I mean, granted, you still have to pay your bills, and we were kind of in a situation where that was,
yeah,
so, but that's not where I'm gonna cut. I'm not going to
yeah,
cut on my ingredients. We work with a local creamery, which is getting bigger, but like, I know the CEO, we've been in same organizations, and that is important to me. I
hmm,
like that. I like that's part of our story. Is it more expensive? Oh, heck yeah, it really is.
yes,
Um, but it tastes better. Like when I first started, going back to talking about how we started, is I did a blind test on a snickerdoodle cookie because that's a butter cookie, and
hmm,
I did like the couple local ones. I did what we learned in pastry school and blind tasted them, and I was like, damn, that tastes good. Yeah, you could tell it's a higher butter fat,
hmm.
and it's like, so that's going to be just part of our story is using that butter. So. And so we keep paying for it and, and just make it work. But then they support us, we do their holiday gifts or they do a shout out. So that's really about this ecosystem, about being a hyper local that, we all kind of help we're all part of it together
Hmm.
for sure.
Love it. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna get into a little bit of your past. So you've started
Okay.
your world-renowned kitchens. What's one business or leadership lesson from those experiences that still shows up in your bakery today?
I did. I learned I learned staging, like that was a whole word, like how do you even say it right?
Yes.
Working in restaurants, and it is like is the best like day or a week that you could ever spend, and you will learn more than you will ever do in a whole year of pastry school. So I recommend it. Sometimes people get weird about insurance, but I did Vegas with Robuchon with Chef Kamal for chocolates because when I left my pastry chef position, I couldn't do chocolates really well, and I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn how to do this, and so there is, again goes back to that kindness. Showed me how to. Their chocolates were amazing,
Mhm.
and just brought me in. And then the other experience was Liberta Dan in New York with Michael Lasconis, who now teaches. And I learned there to be kind. Their staff,
Mm,
he was so nice to his staff and kind, and they were kind to each other. Um, and less is more. He was an architect by training, and
okay.
so building a plated dessert, like how you don't need to hide. Like this, he taught me the whole two or
Mhm.
three things. Like no, don't put like 10 things because your palate's not going to be able to figure that out, so two or three things. And that was really cool. I think he finally was like, okay, are you done? I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay here forever. So I did. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool kitchen because at the time, it felt like a lot of people in that level of cooking were on second careers. And it brought a different vibe to it, people, it was quiet, there's no screaming, which I've been in that situation too.
Mhm.
And people just came there to get their job done. I'm sure they're stressed and that maybe caught it on a good day, but they just were there to get it done. And no, it was just a really, really awesome place to see how a kitchen works. And I think that's why they're three-star Michelin because they got that part down. People
Mhm.
get in, they do their job, and they're all pulling together rather not, competing or sabotaging. That's a whole nother story for another podcast. But anyway, yeah, so that was really cool. And I'm trying to think of some others, but those two were just like, those people stuck with me, have stuck with me to remember. Just even when you're having a bad day and you like get sharp, you're like, oh, you still try to back it up and remember. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. I I love it so much. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I have two more questions for you. So the next one is, this is kind of future planning. All right. So for a future you, are you thinking about wholesale, additional locations, any new channels? What's a part of your next wave of growth?
Feeling like I'm a crossroads there because a couple years ago we were growing. I had a bigger staff. We were doing private label, we were doing wholesale, and I felt like a hamster wheel. Like we were making more money, we were spending more, and didn't see it. I didn't see the exponential. I didn't see the world of pop. I didn't see how it was going to change for us. Um, it was kind of sad on some regard where you realize like, oh, we're going to have all these outlets, we could be the next whatever. And I didn't think I had that experience. And I think that's why sometimes, maybe, when you bring people on, it could take you to that level, but I didn't. So I kind of came to terms with being okay with being local, regional. Like maybe we won't, hey, if you're listening and you want to like franchise us, fine, or, help us grow. But I was okay with my level of experience and where I'm at in my life and with my kid of being okay to be where we're at. Okay, we'll be maybe one place. Maybe we won't have multiple outlets. And I won't be that multi-million dollar with a Jaguar and a pool. We all have our dreams.
Yes.
Not happening. So my pool is an inflatable right now. So yeah, it works. But what can I do to still have a level of success? And so it's really important to us to be part of our community, like I talk about farm ingredients. But we've then become open to a high school to have kids come in and be a mentor. We have a program that we work with the Department of Rehabilitation where you have kids with special needs come in and get job
Mm-hmm.
training and really get like grown up experiences. And to me, that brings me a lot of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the hardest and the most rewarding. It's like the most soul crushing and the most rewarding experience sometimes in the same day because you get kids come in that have a lot, like with the interns, a lot of issues or something, and then we try to cut through it and give them a safe spot and give them confidence and give them
Mm-hmm.
the resources to get them that next level in growing for the kids. And then for the kids with special needs, we're like, we all have superpowers and we all have challenges. Let's work. Where are your superpowers? Like we can all like think I can't do it because of X, Y, and Z, but like what can you do? And let's really work on that. And we've had a kid for a couple years where he came in one day a week, when didn't want to make eye contact and was really nervous. He comes in now, he's up to 3 shifts, comes in, is like so happy. I wish everyone would be like that. Looks at his list and gets to work. And
Yes.
I'm like, you know what? We did that. We gave that kid that opportunity to feel good about himself, to give him skills, to feel like he has options, and that makes me proud. That's where I think our growth is and where we grow. We are definitely, in COVID, we kind of we like really, COVID was good. It helped you really strip down what's important, what you do good at. We were doing a wholesale account where we were going twice a week. It was like a packaged good. We don't need to do that. We're going to go once a week. So it helped me really look at what we're doing. If we had an account that was like 20 minutes away, that was really small dollar, yeah, we're not going to do that. Love being there. We'll come for lunch, but yeah, we're not going to do that. So I feel like we've rode that as long as we should.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've just done a sales sheet and we're looking at ways to go back out and wholesale and find some new opportunities. Like we make dog biscuits because we kept having these people say my dog ate my red box, and that was when we were listened. It happened a lot. So like, okay, we hear this need where our customers' dogs are eating our cookies and the box is not great. So we use a lot of egg whites. So we have all these egg yolks. So we're using that in a pumpkin and brown parsley dog treat. So now we have dog treats. So like, wait, we're close to the coast, and all these people come up with their dogs. let's go find some opportunities, you know?
Yes.
So I've kind of finally, I feel like I'm digging out of the whatever we just had for the last 5 years
Mm-hmm.
of like, okay, I think it's safe now. Maybe that we can expand a little bit. So I held it close, probably too long, of just trying to make sure we survived. So I think we're trying to come out of that survival mode and like, okay, let's grow again.
Yes. Be creative. I love it. Okay, so one of the questions I'm super excited to ask you about, I don't know that I've asked this question on the podcast yet, is because you went from pastry chef into entrepreneurship. I did the same thing, but I haven't had this conversation with anyone. So my question is, what would you tell someone who is still on the pastry chef side of the world and they're thinking about leaping into entrepreneurship? What advice would you give them, and what do you wish you had known earlier?
When I had known earlier, I don't even know if I know that one yet still. But usually when I have people that come in that are interested, like wanting to be a pay, you know, having their own business, I'm like, go work for somebody else. Go learn from their mistakes. Do not learn on your own, right? Um, find out what you want to do. Like experiences are go both ways. Like I'm never going to do that, or I want to do that. But learn on someone else's dime. This is really hard. Um, yeah, I wish I would have paid attention to the books and the numbers better. I had a sense of it. You kind of I have a sense of how much that costs, but then when you start to really get down to it, you're like, oh yeah, that adds up. So yeah, be good at math. You know, everyone thinks like, oh, I'm big, I don't need to know math. Like, yeah, you do. You
Yeah,
do.
you did.
You need to know fractions. You need to know multiplications. Definitely work on your 12s, your scales. So yeah,
Yes.
do you know what what, 6 dozen is, Anyway,
Yes.
so yeah, but I and also I think there are a lot of people will tell you no, or like that's a bad idea. That's so easy advice to give to people, right? Like, oh, that's a bad idea. So hear it, but listen to your heart and like, do the work. Oh my God, do the work. Do a business plan. Someone gave me a great advice is plan for the worst. Plan for the worst. Another woman too. I guess we're all in the same thing, a woman chef of like, and I'm sure it served her well too, but plan for the worst. So you're never too far over your skis that you can always kind of get back and you don't lose your business. So, but yeah, that would be it. And then do it. Like, life is short. So if you think you can make it work and you can figure out the math and the money, and then do it.
Thank you so, so much, Tracy, for taking this time to talk with us, to talk to our audience. I know that this will be exciting, particularly because we talked very specifically about entrepreneurship and taking that leap from pastry over into entrepreneurship. I spent the summer at conferences speaking to people,
Oh, cool.
and that was something that kept coming up was how do you
Yeah.
go from like restaurants or fine dining into entrepreneurship. So I was super excited to be able to ask you that question today. So thank you so much for doing that. I've loved having you as a guest on The Perfect Rise.
Well, this is so much fun. Thank you, Kimberly.